There's a jar on a shelf in a house you've probably never been to, and it's completely unremarkable. Glass, a metal lid, maybe a chip on the rim from being knocked over once. Every week, without saying a word, someone empties their pockets into it. Quarters, a 5, sometimes just pennies. A kid grows up watching this happen so many times it stops registering as an event at all. It's just background noise, like a clock ticking. And then, right when the jar finally looks full enough to matter, a car breaks down or a pipe bursts, and the whole thing gets emptied out in an afternoon. Back to zero. This happened for years in thousands of houses, and almost nobody noticed the real lesson hiding inside it, because the problem was never the discipline. The problem was the jar itself. Now picture a different scene, one generation later. A Tuesday evening, nothing special about the date. Someone opens a banking app and sets up an automatic transfer. $500 every month moving straight into an investment account. There's no toast to it. No one throws a party over online banking. Tell a friend and you'll get a polite nod, maybe genuine indifference. Tell family and you might get gentle skepticism. Are you sure that's not better spent paying something down first? None of this requires anything exotic. In practice, it's a low-cost fund tracking something like the S&P 500, sitting inside a regular brokerage account, or a Roth IRA if the goal is tax-free growth the IRS signs off on, with the transfer set to pull automatically the same day the paycheck lands, before there's a chance to talk yourself out of it. If there's a 401k match sitting on the table at work, that comes first. It's often free money layered on top, before a single dollar even reaches the market. The account is boring on purpose. The whole point is that it doesn't require a decision every month. It requires exactly one decision made once and then left alone. A broad index fund, rather than a handful of individual stocks, is the standard choice here, and for a specific reason. Picking winners requires being right about specific companies over and over for a decade. Owning the whole market just requires the economy, in aggregate, to keep functioning the way it always has. One of those is a bet. The other is closer to a fact of how the system works. And treating the transfer like a bill, something that leaves the account automatically before it's ever seen as spendable, is what keeps it from ever becoming a monthly decision at all. Here's the part nobody warns you about. The decision feels bad before it feels good. The checking account is immediately, measurably lighter. The investment account, on the other hand, shows a number that means almost nothing yet. It's a seedling pushed into soil, and right now the pot looks exactly like an empty pot. There is zero visual difference between someone who is about to build real wealth and someone who just wasted $500. That gap between what's actually happening and what it merely looks like is exactly where most people quit. Not because the math is wrong, because nothing about it feels like it's working, and feelings are what most of us actually run on day to day. There's an obvious objection here, and it deserves a real answer instead of being waved away. What if $500 a month isn't sitting around waiting to be invested? What if there's a car payment, a credit card balance, rent that already eats most of the paycheck? That's a fair, common situation, and the honest answer is that high-interest debt should usually get paid down first. Carrying a balance at 20% interest while investing for an average return closer to 10% is working against yourself. But that's a different conversation from the one most people have with themselves, which is quietly deciding the number doesn't matter at all, that investing is for people who already have more money than they do. It isn't. The mechanism described here works the same way at $50 a month as it does at $500. Slower, smaller, but structurally identical. The amount changes the size of the outcome. It never changes whether the outcome happens. Within a few weeks, the second guessing starts right on schedule. Is 500 even the right number? Should it be more since you're serious about this, or less since rent just went up? Is this the right moment to start, or should you wait for some clearer signal that never actually arrives? None of these questions have clean answers, and that's exactly the point. Waiting for certainty is just procrastination wearing a more respectable outfit. Then life does what life does. The car needs $400 of work nobody budgeted for. A dentist appointment turns into something more expensive than expected. 1 month, 3 things break at once, and pausing the transfer suddenly looks completely reasonable. You're not quitting, you're just being sensible, just this once. Here's the trap. It is never just once. The first paused month doesn't feel like a failure, so there's nothing stopping the second pause, or the fifth. A one-time exception, made under pressure, quietly rewires itself into the default response every single time life gets difficult. And life is reliably, permanently difficult on some kind of rotating schedule. But nothing tests this like a falling market. At some point, the account balance drops below the total amount of cash that's actually been put in. Not paper gains disappearing, the number sitting there is genuinely less than what was contributed. Every instinct a person has starts screaming that something has gone wrong, that this whole thing was a mistake, that the smart move is to stop the bleeding and pull out. This is where most investing stories quietly end, in that exact moment for that exact reason. Here's the reframe almost nobody hears in time. A falling market doesn't mean the automatic $500 is failing. It means that same $500 is now buying more shares at a lower price without anyone lifting a finger to notice or take advantage of it. The system built into that automatic transfer doesn't panic. It doesn't check the news, it just keeps buying, cheaper every single month the price is down, quietly turning the worst feeling months into some of the most productive ones in the entire timeline. The discomfort is real. The mistake, in almost every case, is acting on it. Here's a genuine question worth sitting with, because people land on opposite sides of it. When the balance actually drops below what you've put in, and every instinct says pull the money out before it gets worse, have you ever done that, hit pause, or sold something? Or has some other habit stopped you every time? Drop your honest answer below, because the replies on this one tend to split hard, and reading where other people land is worth your time. Here's what that actually looks like with real numbers, because dollar cost averaging sounds abstract until you watch it happen. Say a fund is trading at $50 a share. That month's $500 buys 10 shares. Now say the market drops hard and the same fund falls to $25 a share. That exact same $500 moved automatically without anyone deciding anything, now buys 20 shares, double the shares for the same money, purely because the price fell. When the price eventually recovers back to $50, those 20 shares are worth $1,000, not $500. The account didn't need the investor to be brave or clever or to correctly time anything. It just needed the transfer to keep happening on schedule, especially during the exact months that felt the worst. Around the third year, something shifts so quietly that most people almost miss it. For the first time, the account's growth in a single month is bigger than the $500 just put in. Dividends that got reinvested, plus growth that already happened, have started generating their own returns. Money making money for the very first time in a way you can point to. This is the moment compounding stops being a phrase from a textbook and becomes something physically happening in an account with your name on it. It's easy to miss because it doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It shows up as a slightly bigger number on a slightly ordinary day. There's no mystery in why this happens eventually, only in exactly when. Every dollar sitting in the account is earning its own return on top of growth it already produced the year before. Compounding on the compounding, not just on the original 500. Early on, the accumulated pile is simply too small for that layered growth to outweigh a fresh monthly deposit. But the pile keeps climbing every single month regardless, while the return rate on it stays roughly steady, so its own growth keeps closing the distance on the size of that monthly deposit. Exactly which year the gap closes depends on the returns actually earned along the way. Sooner in a strong stretch of markets, later in a rough one, which is why the flicker doesn't land on a fixed date for everyone, only on a fixed logic. A big enough pile, given enough time, eventually outgrows the hand feeding it. By year 7, the flicker from year 3 has turned into something undeniable. The portfolio's own internal growth now regularly outpaces the monthly deposit, month after month, not as a lucky exception, but as the new normal. Something real flips here, psychologically. Up to this point, the person contributing $500 a month has been the main engine of their own account's growth. After this point, they're not anymore. Compounding has taken the wheel. The account is now substantially building itself, with the monthly contribution acting more like fuel on a fire that's already burning on its own. Run the full 10 years, all 120 months, and the numbers land somewhere worth sitting with. Total contributed, out of pocket, dollar for dollar, $60,000. Total sitting in the account after average market returns and the compounding that's been quietly working the entire time, somewhere between $95,000 and $115,000. That gap, $35,000 to $55,000, didn't come from a bonus, an inheritance, or a lucky stock pick. It came entirely from time, patience, and the simple refusal to stop. Now shift one variable and watch what happens to the outcome. Take that same strategy and delay it by 5 years. Same $500 a month, same average return, just started half a decade later. The obvious loss is 5 years of contributions. That's not actually the expensive part. The expensive part is that those 5 years would have been the earliest money in the whole account, the dollars with the longest runway left to compound before the 10-year mark arrives. Losing them doesn't just remove 5 years of deposits. It removes the years that had the most remaining time to grow on top of themselves. Run the math either direction, starting earlier or starting later, and the pattern holds. The calendar date you start matters more than almost any other decision in the entire process, including the exact dollar amount. It's worth putting that $500 next to how it usually gets spent instead. Dinners out, a stack of streaming subscriptions, a handful of convenience fees that don't even register individually. None of that is wrong. Those things buy real enjoyment, and enjoyment is a legitimate thing to spend money on. But the enjoyment ends. The meal gets eaten, the show gets watched, The $500 is gone, and so is the moment it bought. Money that gets invested instead doesn't work that way. It doesn't get used up. It sits there, building a foundation that keeps producing, year after year, long after the version of you that made the decision has stopped thinking about it at all. Here's the number that hasn't come up yet. That $35,000 to $55,000 gap between what got contributed and what the account actually holds, compounding's entire contribution to the story, is roughly the same size as everything put into that account by hand across the first 6 to 9 years of the whole 10-year run. Every dollar deposited, month after month, across most of the decade, adds up to something the market alone recreated on its own. No hands involved, just by being left untouched. 6 to 9 years of saving, duplicated for free. Go back to that jar on the shelf, the one that got emptied out every time life needed it to. If that exact same discipline, the same $500 sitting untouched for the same 10 years, had gone into a jar instead of an account, there would be no 6 to 9 years quietly duplicated for free. No flicker in year 3, no shift in year 7, nothing working while nobody was watching. Just a jar holding exactly what got dropped into it, month after month for a decade, and not 1 cent more. The discipline was already there. You've had it since you were a kid, watching pockets get emptied into glass. The only thing that was ever missing was one jar built to hold money still, and one built to let it grow.